Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Head to Head Sports. I am your host, Brian Parker, along with my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How you doing?
I am doing good. I am. Hello, thanks, everybody, for joining us. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Facebook. This show also airs on our Roku and Amazon Fire TV channel under Empower TV. So if you have a smart TV or a streaming stick plugged into your TV, please add Empower TV, not only for Head to Head Sports, but also Head to Head, our main news show, as well as other programming that we have on there. The channel runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we definitely appreciate the support. With all of that said, Rand, you know, man, before we even get started, we just want to Tim Bayless, what's up?
What's up, Tim?
We definitely want to send our thoughts and prayers to Damar Hamlin and his family. I'm sure everybody has it's like watching a Chinese movie. You talking, but it's a delay. Yeah, I know. I've gone back and seen some of my recordings and seen that, and I totally don't get that because I got like some kick-ass internet speed, but that's just crazy. But anyway, so like Chinese movie. Anyway, we definitely want to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Damar Hamlin as he is recuperating in the Cincinnati hospital after collapsing Monday night early in the Bills Cincinnati game. There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of days. I almost didn't know if I should do the show or not. But, you know, Rand, I was thinking about it. Damar didn't ask for the spotlight, and you know, if Monday hadn't have happened, he would have been content with the Bills just winning the game, or him just, you know, playing his best as he was trying to just, you know, make enough plays for his team to win. He didn't want any of the spotlight to have to be on him for such an unfortunate incident. And as somebody that has a pacemaker installed inside of me, I know how scary it is to know that your heart can just stop like that. But I think to honor Damar is to talk about the game that he loved playing, that he spent lots of time and hours preparing for the NFL to play. So yes, Anthony, I definitely want to talk about Shannon and Skip's beef because for the second time in the last month and a half, I've seen Skip Bayless just be very disrespectful to Shannon Sharp, and he has taken the high road both times. And I'm just ready for him to jump across the desk and whip his ass. But anyway, Rand, you go ahead and jump on, here because I could go on and on about what I saw this morning on Undisputed, but I'll let you jump on in.
Yeah, just the Hamlin thing, man. Just immediate thoughts to Reggie Lewis back in the day, playing for the Boston Celtics and collapsing down on the floor and losing his life due to pretty similar circumstances. Now, I know Reggie Lewis had pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
Hamlin's was just an absolute freak. Accident. Accident.
Yes.
As the heart was expanding at the same time, he gets hit in a specific area of a vein that causes cardiac arrest. Just freak.
Right.
Struck by lightning circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But The positive thing about it is that young man is still here.
Yeah.
Um, I did not, after I watched the game and I watched the delays and they finally went off the air and postponed the game like they should have done. Um, it was hard for me to sleep that night because I did not want to wake up the next morning and hear that young man had passed away.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad that he's fighting through it. I hear he's off of the oxygen machine, or he's got decreased oxygen, breathing on his own, or
Mm-hmm.
at least breathing better on his own.
Yeah.
He's going to have lung damage because he spent like 9 minutes actually dead on that football field
Mm-hmm.
with people working on him. So he's going to have some damage. But I know his family, those players, and everybody that was surrounding him are glad that he's just here. Forget the football. They're glad that he is just here. And shame on you, NFL. I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and hoping that you did not have all of the information when you made the decision to take a 5-minute delay and tell the players to continue that game. I'm hoping you didn't have all of the information that everybody on the field had, and that you made that decision without a lack of information. Because if you knew those circumstances and you told those players to continue that game, the NFL is not looking good right now.
Nope.
Shout out to both of those coaches for doing what any parent would have done for their son in that circumstance.
Yeah. Anthony says, Randall, yes, NFL wanted to play that game for the money. For the money, yes, for the fact that this was the two hottest teams in the AFC, matchup between two young quarterbacks that hadn't faced off on each other. It's Monday Night Football. It's in a primetime spot. There are no other NFL games. It brings so many viewers and everything else, and all the people that had paid their tickets and stuff like that. I know all of those things were going through the NFL's mind. Has absolutely nothing to do with what had happened on that field. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you had seen the horror in those players' eyes, they were crying, they were afraid, they were just in disarray. There ain't no way in hell they could have played that game.
No, man.
I mean, the use of the term shook, it would be understated. They were done. You could have, even if you told them to go ahead and play that game, it would have been a mess.
You would have seen 10. You would have seen 10 to 15 offsides, false starts, penalties.
It would have been the messiest game in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, somebody else could have got hurt. So Jermaine says the same NFL that said black players should be compensated less than white players for concussions because black players had less intelligence to lose. Yeah, okay. Good point. Jermaine says also I'm trying to get canceled, but my fantasy championship is hanging on this Bills game. What's the decision on making it up? Hadn't heard anything yet.
No.
Because I don't know how you do. I don't know how you make it up. I know in other times during COVID, they just push it down the road, but within the same week. Typically, you got to get the players at least about a 4-day turnaround before, like some games went to a Wednesday during COVID, and those same teams played again on a Sunday. But, I mean, hell, it's already Wednesday now. And it was already a late game in the Monday game. So I don't know how that gets tacked on, Jermaine. I don't know if I don't know. I got money on this. Bro, you need to stop. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of money implications. And, the NFL sometimes is so big that I think they lose sight of the actual humanity of the players because it's just a money machine. I've heard so many people over the last couple of days making this about something that it isn't. Rand, you summed it up perfectly. This is a lightning strike kind of situation where let's see, Tim says Stephen A brought up a great idea and just push the playoffs back a week and play a week 19 game to make it up. They could. I know some of that is going to come down to the venues because they've had those scheduled out for NFL games. So a lot of that is just probably, and that may be what they're doing, Tim, is making sure that all the venues can host a week later. Some stadiums are multi-use stadiums, whether they're huge concerts, soccer games, other things that go on at those stadiums when it's a off week for the NFL, where the crews have to come in, flip the fields, and things like that. So I'm sure all those things can be worked out, but they at least have to be worked out. They got to be coordinated with all these different teams and venues for that to happen. So that's something to look at too. But what I was getting at, Rand, is that, you know, when something like this happens, as unfortunate as it is, it needs to be viewed in the right context. And like I said, you put it in the right context that it was a typical tackle. It wasn't anything extraordinary about the tackle. Wasn't anything about going down to the ground or anything like that. But yet folks that are, I won't say anti-NFL, but folks that already think the NFL is too violent, want to pull their kids out of playing football and stuff like that, kind of jumped on this to say, see, this is why we don't want our kids to play football. And you can't say, see, this is why I don't want my kids to play football for something that is a freak accident that could have happened outside of the game of football in the right circumstances.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And then to bring it back into football, guys, I'm bringing a news alert up. Football been violent for the last 50 something odd years. It was violent when they wore leather helmets. It was violent when they didn't have the kind of technology and equipment and gear and stuff that they wear. It was less violent when before the rules changed, where you could do wedge returns. It was less violent when the players got a head start when the kicker got ready to kick the ball. Now they got to wait for him to kick it off the tee. It was a lot more violent then. So is it perfect? No. Is protocol still a little funny down there in Miami? Yes. But to say that the game is violent and that I pull my kids out of it, y'all got to understand something. For a lot of these players, this is how they've taken their family out of poverty. It's a lot easier for folks that don't have to sit there and go through that. Some of these players have experienced homelessness and food insecurity and things like that. And being able to play in the NFL, as dangerous as it is, has given them the ability to elevate themselves and their families out of situations that a lot of us may not even be able to relate to.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't pull the plug on football because of something like this happening. I mean, you don't stop driving on the highway when there's an accident. You just take the proper precautions, have your seatbelt on, don't drink and drive. You do your best to protect yourself on the roadway. But just because there's an accident and even a fatality, you don't stop driving.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a great analogy. You know, I hate to bring up plane crashes, but same thing. I mean, you know, as crazy as those are and traumatic, and it'll sit in the back of your mind every time that thing go up in the air. Um, you know, people are still resoundingly doing that, and I would, you know, just make people, you know, caution and just say, look, let's just focus on the fact that we got a young man who unfortunately had to be brought back twice. Um, that is on his way to recovery, and that should be the focus. He too would want us to be able to continue on at some point. Yes, stop, pause, acknowledge the fact that this happened. Pray for his recovery, his family. A lot of people have been donating to his charity. Those are some really great ways to honor him. And that's where the focus needs to be on. Now, I normally don't talk about what happened on Skip and Shannon on Undisputed, but there was a couple of episodes back where Shannon was making some very good points. And he basically was talking about Tom Brady being trash this year, according to his stats, because he's getting old. And Skip just took exception with that because part of his one of his residences, so to speak, is in the crack of Tom Brady's tail. So he lives there a lot. So he took exception to that, and even went to the point of making it personal, telling Shannon that he was just being jealous because Tom Brady was able to play at the age of 45 and he had to retire at 35. And Tom Brady, he just jealous because Tom Brady was a better player than he was. He just kind of went on and on and on about it. It was very personal and mean spirited, and he didn't really back off from it at all. So noticeably on Tuesday's episode of Undisputed, Shannon was missing because Skip had put in some text that if you read it a certain way would have seemed like he was being a little insensitive to what had just happened to Damar on the field, talking about how they're going to make this game up and stuff like that. As fresh as this was, that was the first thing Skip's tweeting. And the executives at Fox Sports made him actually go back on to Twitter to clarify what he meant, so people wouldn't misunderstand that he did care about the safety. He was just asking a question, more or less. Well, Shannon didn't really appreciate that, so he didn't show up to the show on Tuesday. He wanted to cool off. He came back on today to try to give some clarification and explanation. And as soon as he made the point that Skip had posted something on Twitter that he didn't like, Skip interrupted his monologue, and they kind of got into it for a second. And at the end of the day, Shannon just said, you know what, you won't even let me finish a simple monologue. So you know what, let's just go on with the rest of the show. And he kind of did that as soon as Skip insulted him a month and a half ago about the whole Tom Brady thing. He just looked at Jen Hill and was like, okay, let's just keep going, and just blew it off. When in the back of your mind, you know, most people, because this is when Shannon took his glasses off, and Skip's looking at him like, put your glasses back on, because he knew he was about to catch an L or some hands. You know, I've seen that look before. Like, it's not going to work out for you. And Skip said text was bad. Skip text was bad timing, but it wasn't outrageous. I agree, Jermaine. It wasn't that if the text had been done on Tuesday, that would have been the biggest difference. The problem was in the moment where everybody's wondering if this guy is going to die on the way to the hospital. Bayless is texting about how they're going to make this up. And I'm sure that was in the thought of everybody's minds, even the people that were there at the stadium. But their main focus wasn't the text. Oh, that would have almost been insensitive to somebody typing, and damn, am I getting a refund for this game? But at least them, I would have understood a little bit more, because if you have been to an NFL game, that ain't cheap. Between the tickets, the parking, the concessions, and everything else you got to do just to get to the stadium, I understand having a little bit more question of like, okay, I feel bad for the dude. Do I get a credit? How do I get my money back? Skip is at the comfort of his home, sending a text about something that could be ironed out later on in that week. It was a big game, and the question of how to make it up was a worthy question. It was. But you know what? Sometimes it ain't about what you say. It's how you say it and when you say it. And I think that was the biggest issue I think Shannon had with it. And he was going to try to clarify that a little bit. But because Skip heard somebody say anything slightly against what he did, he got defensive real quick and wouldn't even let the man speak.
Yeah, it's just the insensitivity of America in general. We're just in a fast-paced technology age, and where, you know, people see somebody get hurt and they, for lack of better words, they don't care. They don't care. Players blow out knees, ACL injuries, things that take them one full calendar year to recover from. And we as fans, you know, dang, man, messed up my fantasy.
First thing,
let me go grab somebody else. Dang, that player sucks, man. This is his third daggone injury. They don't think of everything it's like to rehab that injury, what that player is going through mentally. They don't think about any of that stuff, man. So it's just, you know,
the insensitivity fantasy football has made it a lot worse, because we really do just look at that name on our fantasy team. And man, I mean, look, if anybody mad about fantasy, I chose after 15 weeks of seeing Tom Brady and Mike Evans being not on the same page, decided to bench Mike Evans this weekend on my other fantasy football team.
Woo,
and he had 53.
Lost.
And he had a touchdown catch, and God knows when had 3 against my Panthers, which we will get to that. But if anybody be mad about the fantasy this week, bro, I got money on this fantasy. Bro, I had money on mine too. I get it. And I sat him. So I get it. And he says, now Randall's people's first people's first thing was about the FanDuel.
That's all right. Yeah.
FanDuel money and DraftKings, you damn
Yep.
right.
Yep. It ain't about nobody's health. Look, you remember when Alex Smith had his leg injury? This man almost died. He could have died from a leg injury.
You had to have like 18 surgeries or something?
Yes. You think people who were starting him at that time gave a damn? Nah. You wasn't thinking about that.
Hey, for all they cared, put his ass on a gurney and push it back so he can fly. So, yeah, I listen, y'all. I get it, but I think that at some point, there's those things to hash out, but we can't lose the sight that this was a young, or not, I don't want to say was, that's a past tense. This is a young man who did die on that field. I mean, he was technically dead, and they had to bring him back, and we're glad they were able to do that. Like I said, I can sympathize with that as somebody that does not have full use of my heart, and the pacemaker is there in the event that my heart decides at any point to just stop. It will shock me back. And thankfully, it has never had to do that. But that's not a fun thing. And now mine is more of a condition. His wasn't even a condition like that. So I just didn't appreciate the fact that Skip decided to interrupt the man. I also didn't appreciate the fact that somebody in the water cooler called Shannon Sharp illiterate. And I chose not to respond because I knew I'd still be responding to that person up until the show. This was some hours ago when I read that dumbass comment. And I just chose not to say that about it. If anybody's ever heard Shannon Sharp speak, I don't think the word illiterate would be one of the words that you would say. What you probably meant to say was Hall of Famer, multi-time Pro Bowler, was tight end that changed the game as far as tight ends not just being used for blocking purposes. That's probably what you meant to say, and your thumbs got confused and you typed the word illiterate.
How about college educated professional businessman outside of football?
Thank you. I mean, the dude did more trash talking and backing up trash talking than any football player I've ever seen in my life. So you can say what you want about Shannon Sharp. You can love him, like him, whatever. I'm not trying to convince you to love him. But to hurl out insults such as illiterate shows a lack of understanding and honestly ignorance on the person that typed it. And I'm going to let them just have that one because it would have just been dumb on my part to entertain somebody that obviously didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Anyway, I digress. So again, our thoughts are with Damar. If you can donate to his charity and you feel that that's a great way to honor him, please do. A lot of players have done that, and I know it's well over $5.5 million into that charity, which is a good charity too. So glad to see that not only was his goal to make it to the NFL and do great things for himself and his family, but then he was also making sure that he gave back in a way to make a difference and an impact on this world. So that's a good thing too, Rand.
Of course. Yeah. It's a lot of things. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of young folks doing that now, young millionaires.
Yeah.
They're all about the flash. They're all about themselves. So anytime I see a young athlete giving back to the community, I love that.
Yeah. Anthony says, yeah, I had hoped your Panthers that game was rigged. I don't know. I don't know about being rigged. I just know that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are players that may not be able to give you a full game, may not be able to give you back-to-back great games anymore like they once did. But when they get hot, they get hot. And I mean, sometimes it's at the wrong time if you're on the opposing side of that. Even when they've been limping, slumping, looking like they can't do anything correct. I mean, you know, these guys didn't forget how to play football. It's just that their body is starting to betray them. So a lot of times they'll still be able to, you know, do some things.
Yeah, let's get into that game since it was brought up, man. Let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty, the details of this thing.
All right, so Panthers, Bucks. Panthers went out. They're in the playoffs. The Bucks beat the Panthers. They win the NFC South. That's all that was on the line on that game. And it started out pretty great. The Panthers stormed down the field, got to a 7-0 lead. Sam Darnold was like 4 for 4. DJ Moore was getting involved. Darnold was doing his thing. And people got to remember, Darnold was 23 of 37. He threw 3 touchdowns. He did have a pick in the game. He threw for 341 yards. By far, one of the better games I've ever seen Sam Darnold play.
Yep. Yeah. Very good game, man. What lacked in that game and what really cost the Panthers was the previous week of J.C. Horn being injured and having to be put on IR with that wrist injury.
Yeah.
J.C. Horn would not have allowed
Mike Evans to get
Mike Evans to do like any of that. I promise you. I could promise you. Mike Evans would not have had 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards on J.C. Horn. And J.C. Horn would have been his responsibility because Mike Evans is the number 1 wide receiver on that football team. So I know if it was a spliff, we'd all be high. I know that statement, but I can promise you, man, if J.C. Horn had played that game, the Panthers probably would have won that game because C.J. Henderson and Keith burnt freaking toast all game long. All game long.
Hell, they still on fire.
They're still on fire, man.
They still burning. They don't know if it's from Mike Evans or the Crabs, but yeah, they burning y'all. I mean, they burn bad.
I have not seen cornerbacks abused that badly since I don't know when. Me playing Madden on rookie level.
Oh God, for real.
Jesus.
Wait. Yeah. I did that on rookie level before, and I played the Cowboys. I beat them like 100-0.
Yeah.
You know, I actually love that because I used to send it to my Cowboy friends, just make them mad. But yeah, and they also have 4 turnovers. So look, the game it was 24-30, and they got it with 4 turnovers. Yes, Tom Brady ended up with 432 yards passing, but to Rand's point, 207 of those yards went to one man, which would have been Mike Evans. If you throw in Chris Godwin, the second receiver, that was 327 of the 432 yards.
Good Lord, man.
The next receiver was Russell Gage with 33 yards. So let's be clear. He knew the weakness that the Panthers had, and he did what a smart person did. He exploited it. So
B, I got some people chiming in on Facebook. I want to read some of these comments. I got my boy Robbie Jenkins. What's up, Robbie?
What's going on, Robbie? How you doing?
Robbie says, as someone who has overcome a heart attack myself, I'm thankful to still be here. Prayers to Damar. Absolutely for that. Then we have Jesse Carr chiming in. Same. I survived sepsis and cardiac arrest. 2 serious conditions. I know about those. Trusting those doctors, they know what they are doing. Robbie also comes back and says Horn would have made a huge difference. Same point I made. He would have made an absolute he wouldn't have been burnt as badly as Keith Taylor was and CJ Henderson were all game long. That game would have been tighter. It's not like Tampa even ran away with that game.
No,
with all of that happening. So
yeah. That's exactly right. Anthony says, you think that the head coach didn't change it up to stop Evans after the second touchdown. With what?
With what? Yeah.
I mean, with who?
Yeah, we did have
look, at the end of the day, Mike Evans ain't no bum. But we just
Yeah.
happen to have J.C. Horn, who has for the bulk of the season really been limiting. Hey, Erica, has been limiting receivers that get thrown his way to being able to come up with catches and stuff. So he's been pretty much shutting down his side and forcing teams to just have one half of the field. That's all. And you can't just replace that. It wasn't saying that we had a decent corner that got hurt. He was on the elite level this year.
He was
really doing that. So you can't just say, well, there's an elite guy, we just plug in another guy. There's still going to be a drop off. And Brady knew that if I could get Mike Evans is big enough. He's not going to blast by you, but he can get behind you. And because he's so freaking tall, he can catch them balls. Just saying hello since I miss you guys on Thursdays. Miss you too, Erica. Listen, head-to-head tomorrow. New time is at 7 p.m. I hope you're able to join. So all of our streaming shows will start at 7 o'clock now for 2023. Yeah, this one's been doing it for about a month or so, and it's been good. So we're going to do the same with the main show tomorrow too. So that should be good. We'll probably even talk a little bit more about this. I guess I get off at 7. All right, nice. So we'll actually probably talk a little bit more about the whole Damar Hamlin episode, not so much from just the sports side of it, but from a bigger side of it too. So I don't want to put all that onto this, but we'll definitely talk about it tomorrow at 7 p.m. Same channel. Anyway, yeah, so it was a good game in that respect, but there was just so much on the line for the Panthers. I hate that it ended this way. They're 6-10. Kind of next week is almost who cares kind of game because it's not going to be for anything. I don't even think it would determine the outcome of whether Steve Wilks gets any more consideration for the coaching job. I think if you're looking back at it, you kind of have enough of a sample size to be able to make that decision one way or another. I don't think he can hurt himself anymore. I think the playoffs really would have made the consideration more interesting. If he didn't get it, at least the playoffs would have made it interesting. Not having the playoffs makes it a lot easier for somebody to say, no, I don't think so. Even though at the time it looked like he was handed something that didn't even have the prospect of making the playoffs. So it's kind of like moving the goalpost on him in a lot of ways, because when you take away Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, and you say, here are the keys, I mean, it's like handing somebody the keys to a house and they ain't got no roof on it.
Yeah.
So, or you hand them the keys to the house, the door is there, but the windows is ain't no windows in the house. And that like they supposed to keep themselves protected. And you're like, well, somebody just come through the window.
Yeah, I think Steve Wilks has done a phenomenal job at this thing, turning this around from 1-5 to the potential of ending with a 7-10 year. Of course, he would be my number one choice if I was the owner. But have you heard the latest? All of a sudden, here comes Jim Harbaugh calling, wanting to leave college, wanting to get out of Michigan. He is initiating these calls. It's not Tepper calling him. He's now calling with interest in the Panther job. So
stay away,
as much as I'm rooting for Coach Wilks, I'm also kind of like looking over my shoulder for the Panthers to make this potentially bad decision, man.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, I have no problem with. It's funny how nobody has a problem with this college coach wanting to get the hell out of Michigan, and Deion caught all his flack. But anyway, whole nothing. Harbaugh wants to go to the NFL. That's great. Really? What y'all say about Deion? Sell out. You
Yeah,
know,
like that man needs to stay in one place forever. But anyway.
yeah, anyhow, but I you know, the jump from head coach of college football to head coach of an NFL team, how many times have we seen it work?
Not many.
Steve Spurrier, Chip Kelly. I mean, I'm just like, okay, Matt Rule. It's like, come on, like, can they come in and be maybe a positions coach first? Can they be a coordinator first? You're going to give them all of the keys, and they haven't coached. Now, I get it. Harbaugh actually played in the NFL. I give him that. But as Jeff Saturday will tell you, that it's a little bit more to it than that. So, you know, Vrabel will tell you that. A lot of guys that are coaches that played will tell you, hey, there's a little bit more to it than that. John Lynch played, but he said, hey, I'm a front office guy. So John Elway played. He's a front office guy, So I get that. That it doesn't necessarily translate over. I would pump the brakes on Harbaugh. You already tried. Jeff Saturday is out here killing his quarterbacks. Oh, he also said, I know he's overrated, but you had Josh Norman. Let me, before I get back to Harbaugh, let me address Anthony. If Josh Norman was in good enough playing shape, he would have been out there. However, I cannot even imagine putting Josh Norman on Mike Evans.
No, he's not conditioned enough for that, man. And coach even said that coming into that game that Josh had 10 to 15 plays maximum that he could give.
Right.
And part of me thinks that even out of condition, he would have done a better job than what was out there, but probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, they had enough games of practice enough days of practice to be able to see what he had in him, and just determining that, hey, while he could be a great contributor, and you did see some contribution because I ain't heard peanut punch since Josh Norman, and actually saw a damn peanut punch in the game.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's that peanut punch. As soon as I saw it, I said it, and the announcer said it at the same time. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But it was the definition of the peanut punch. And while Josh wasn't the one that did it, when we got Charles Tillman in his later years from Chicago, Peanut Tillman, we saw him bring that to Thieves Avenue, the defensive unit in Carolina, and they used the peanut punch all the way, man. They were punching the balls out right in between the arms and everything, man. It was beautiful. So yeah. And then Anthony says, Jim is overrated. 6 years only, went to playoffs 2 and lost both. Yeah, I mean, it's college football. I don't know how much is overrated because you're dealing with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. That's another thing about college football versus dealing with a bunch of grown men. A lot of these guys have been in the league. I mean, yes, you get some rookies and first and second year players, but you also got some guys that have been around the block more times. So that's a lot of different experience in a locker room. When you're in college, they're all in the same boat. They got all of them got about the same amount of experience. Okay. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Robbie following along on Facebook says that he is in the ballpark for Sean Payton. Robbie, you're going to have to give up a draft pick for Sean Payton because the Saints still have rights over him. I'm not in any means wanting to give up a draft pick for a coach. So I'm gonna say no to that.
Yeah. Coach's salary should be separate from any kind of player compensation because now you're affecting the product on the field for a coach. Secondly, the problem with Sean Payton, and it works in different places. It worked in New Orleans. Sean Payton is going to want a whole lot of control, which is why I didn't even think he could make it in Dallas because Dallas already has a general manager problem. It's the owner. And Sean Payton would want a lot of those duties that the general manager would have. And as you can see, Jerry ain't giving up none of that limelight. And I'm not saying that our general manager would be like that, but to have the head coach
basically veto or approve any of your decisions, if not outright put you out of the office and he be GM/head coach, which is, I know, what he would prefer. I don't think that is a good fit for Carolina either. So yeah, I like Peyton. I like what he did down in New Orleans and stuff like that. I'm not taking anything away from that. He did it with an undersized quarterback. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he'd be the best thing. Adam, what's that up, Adam? I see Peyton going to Denver after they finish shaking stuff up. I would agree with that. Because I don't think Elway's ego would get in the way of him being able to have a little bit more control. I actually see Sean Payton going to Denver first too.
I see that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as Carolina and head coach, my main thing with howdy y'all. My main thing with Carolina is trying to coach, whether it's Steve Wilkes or anybody else. I think there's just so many great coordinators and position coaches out there already in the NFL that would deserve an opportunity. Peyton going to the Jets or Chargers or Arizona. If you're talking about Arizona, then you're saying Cliff Kingsbury is going to be put out. If you're saying the Chargers, you're saying Staley's going to get put out. And if you're saying the Jets, Saleh is going to get put out.
I don't see Saleh going absolutely
anywhere. I don't either.
No,
the quarterback is going before he goes.
Yeah, and as far as Arizona, I don't think Peyton wants to go and deal with a little quarterback that's going to be caught in a corner every time things don't go his way. That's not going to work.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Adam says he's going to want a quarterback. I think Wilson proved he needs to be coached. He does need to be coached. And you saw he can still put up. Here's the thing. I say this all the time. What made Russell Wilson special isn't something he has much of anymore, which is his athleticism. How many times did we see Russ running for his life in Seattle, chunk the ball up straight up in the air, and Tyler Lockett comes down with it? His escapability was one of his best assets. He ain't got that anymore. And you can tell he don't even want to take a hit, so he ain't even trying to run to the defense like that. Russell's escapability, elusiveness is what made him special. Other than that, he was an undersized quarterback in the same boat as a lot of these other undersized quarterbacks. Adam says he didn't do bad last week. He did not. And that's the thing about these guys. They got to the league for a reason. They're able to play a game. Can they do it for 17 games?
That's it.
Can they do it for 4 quarters? Or do everybody talks about fourth quarter comebacks and things like that. How about start the game off hot?
Yeah.
You ain't got to come back. I'd rather take a guy that don't have a whole bunch. Now, comebacks, it shows that, the guy has intestinal fortitude. I'll give you that. But when he starts to have to always try to come up with these game-winning drives and stuff, that tells you that he's gotten too used to playing from behind. So that's all I see with Wilson is that he actually got into a game where he didn't have to keep constantly playing from behind and letting his arm throw him into harm's way. And, the beauty of that, you don't have to take as many risks and gunslinger it around, and maybe protect the ball and you can win the game. Funny how that works. I'm just saying. He said he'll be Peyton's quarterback for 2 years. They'll draft a quarterback, educate him, and it'll be Peyton's guy. Yeah, or, he'll just find a tight end that knows how to run Wildcat. No, I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, either way, Peyton will figure out if Russ is somewhat salvageable. But you're right. It'll be 2 years is about right anyway, because does he have more than 2 years? And after 2 years, you can probably start to look at how to cut him anyway without absorbing so much dead cap money. Anthony says, what did I say? NFL wanted Brady and Rodgers. You did say that. Now, Green Bay has not sealed the deal yet, Anthony.
They are still in the hunt. And if Seattle wins, I think that's a wrap for them. Seattle is currently in 7th place. And then on the bubble, and it's funny to say this, on the bubble ran for the NFC is Detroit and Green Bay.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to that primetime matchup Sunday night, man. So
yeah, so the Packers and the Lions are actually playing for 2nd place. The Lions are currently in second. The Lions are currently in 2nd place. The Packers are in 3rd place. So if the Lions beat the Packers, then they solidify 2nd place. But they would also need Seattle to lose. I believe that's how that would work. So the Lions need a little help. They got to beat the Packers. They got to handle their business. But then they would have to hope that Seattle is going to lose, and the Seattle is playing the Rams.
Yeah, Seattle's probably going to beat up on poor Baker. I can see that one.
I can too. So Detroit had a great year. They're probably going to end at 8-9, which will be the same record as Green Bay if they beat the Packers. Yeah. And same scenario. If the Packers do win, they would still need help from the Rams to kill off Seattle. Either way, either one of them needs Seattle to do what they got to do. So that's going to be interesting. Adam also says, I don't see how Philly lost that game. Every time Hill was in, he ran. I don't think Hill threw one pass. He never does. Well, I mean, he does, but more often than not. I don't know how they lost that game either. Philly just seems like the last 2 weeks, they just been trying to cruise to the postseason, but they need to finish business because they can actually allow San Francisco to come in and get the number 1 seed. Yes, they clinched the playoffs, but having that number 1 seed is the only seed that will give you a bye.
Yeah, and get Hurts back.
Yeah. That's they should. I think they're going to have him back for this game. But here's the thing: if you had went ahead and wrapped up the last 2 games, you could have sat everybody for the last game.
Yeah.
Now you've made the last game more meaningful than it had to be. So that's why you got to take every game seriously because it can come back to bite you later. And you definitely wanted to be able to rest some of your guys on week 18. And instead of having to think about playing them. But now,
I got Robbie on Facebook.
And you want to pull them out early? Hey, whatever. I'm sorry, man.
Yep, I got Robbie on Facebook. He says, okay, guys, what do you think the Panthers do on draft day? Do we get a quarterback, offensive line help, or others? I'll go ahead and take this one right quick.
What you got?
That offensive line is going to be fine for the Panthers. They don't need to touch that. I don't know what's up with Bozeman's situation at center, but if he was on a 1-year deal, they need to extend that thing to 2. They don't need to touch that offensive line. That offensive line is perfect. Draft day, the Panthers need to go after a defensive end opposite of Brian Burns, so they can get pressure on the quarterback from both sides. I think that is their biggest need.
You know what? I agree with you on that. First, let me see. I don't know how the Packers beat the Vikings. Jefferson was shut down and Cooks. Yep. Anthony, Eagles going to win. Giants are sitting everybody. Yeah, that's probably going to. You're right. That's going to give the Eagles probably a better chance because the Giants are sitting everybody for the basic reason that they can't improve their status. They're in the playoffs. They're number 6. They're going to stay number 6 no matter what. So they can't. Nothing can really change from that. And then Adam says NFL is the only sport where the regular season matters. Facts. Well, baseball too, even though they play a lot of games. Tim says, I think Philly thought more of Uncle Rico than what he's shown on the field. Uncle Rico's just getting older and older. I mean, and he's a guy that probably needs a lot of reps to be able to get in the flow when he's starting week in and week out.
I bet he can still chuck it over them there mountains.
Adam says that and wide receiver help. I'm out the Panthers. And Anthony says, don't the Panthers draft depend on who's your next coach?
No, it depends on the
so.
GM. I think it depends on the GM because, again, like Rand said, the offensive line is really good. Kwanu will have his rookie year under his belt. There have been some times when he did really good with run blocks, some pass blocks. Maybe he's going to have to work on that a little bit for sure. But a whole nother offseason OTAs and stuff like that, he'll be fine. I agree with the defensive end. If there's a good quarterback, maybe, but don't overreach for a quarterback.
Exactly.
You know, if there's one that falls into your lap, that's really good, that's fine. But would I say trade up for one? It depends. Would I say, hey, take a guy that's a third rounder and make him a first round pick? No. If it's not there, then you may have to go into the season with Darnold. What I would challenge them to do is find a really, 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 really good backup. And that could be a veteran. I know that they don't want to let Tyler Huntley go because they may have to tag Lamar, but if he ends up available, take him. Something like that. But it'd be one of those kind of things.
I could tell you already, Carr's name is going to be attached to the Panthers all season long. He signs with somebody. I could already hear it.
And the thing about Derek Carr that you mentioned that a lot of people aren't talking about, everybody's talking about his salary and what would happen if he got hurt, which is why they sat him. But the most important thing about what Derek Carr did when he got his extension, he has a no trade clause.
Yeah.
So he can basically tell the Raiders to go F themselves real easily and say, well, I'm going. I mean, either you cut him and you eat the money, or you find a suitable trade for him, and those two teams work out who's paying how much of this salary. So Carr has a whole lot of leverage. You may have sat him down and everything, but I think Derek Carr has a whole lot of leverage that folks don't realize. So whether it's Carolina, whether it's the Jets, he got some destinations. Now look at even be Atlanta. I don't think they're committed to Desmond Ridder. I don't think they damn sure ain't committed to Mariota. So that could be an option as well. So I hadn't heard Atlanta come up a lot, but that's still a team that could use a quarterback. Hell, he could be in New Orleans. I don't think they're married to Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. So it could be a couple of those. Will it be a travesty if they change head coach from Adam? I don't think so. I know everybody in that locker room for the most part wants Anthony, wants Steve Wilkes, just because of the pride and everything and wanting to play for the man and the way he inspires them. And if you haven't seen some of these clips of his locker room speeches, man, I mean, hell, I'd be wanting to put on a helmet. I'm like, I'm ready to go play for this dude. So I can see why they love him, just in some of those snippets and stuff. He says, I want to be, and I liked his quote too. He says, I want to be everybody's friend, but I don't want to be their buddy. He said, I'll be a friend to them because I will tell them what they need to hear when they need to hear it, but I'm not going to sit there and be their buddy.
Yeah.
And I've never heard that distinction, but it makes so much sense because you got to be able to identify with the guys and be, have that camaraderie. That's what made Ron Rivera a good coach in Carolina for so long, because he was a player's coach. Everybody trusted him. They loved him, and things like that. I used to love him too before he started Carson Wentz, and I had Carson Wentz on my alternate fantasy team. And in my heart, I had the choice between Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold, and I kept going back and forth. And I went ahead and started Wentz, and I should have started Darnold, and I would have won the damn Facebook Kings if I had done that. Damn it. Anyway, no, I'm not bitter at all, at all. But yeah, my mind, I was like, why am I? Because the optimizer kept telling me to go with Wentz, and I kept going, no, I think Darnold's going to do pretty well against Tampa Bay. What's the worst Wentz could do? Good God. Anyway. Jesus Christ. I will go with my gut the next time. I knew better. I knew better. F you, Carson Wentz. Sorry.
Anyway, Anthony says it's good to be Hooker from Tennessee. He's going to fall down to mid-pick. That's true. Anthony also says, sorry, and Carr is coming to Washington.
Yeah, no need to be sorry, Anthony. I just put that out there for Carr that he's going to be a name that's hot for Carolina, but I really don't want him. I would rather draft a quarterback, and I actually want to draft the guy that you name. Hendon Hooker is my dude from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Bring him to Carolina, put him behind Sam Darnold, and let's roll.
Timothy Bayless says Carr needs to be behind a strong offensive line to be any type of successful O-line. Yep, I agree with that. But if he does, I mean, yeah, he's top 12, top 13.
Yeah,
you get a line, he'll kill you. He can chuck the ball if you give him time. The problem is when the line doesn't hold, containment breaks, the pocket starts to crash, and he gets happy feet. Then you get a different Derek Carr. But if you give Derek Carr time to take that 3, 4, 5 step drop, yeah, he got an arm on him. He'll launch it downfield.
He's a good quarterback, man. For his entire career in the NFL with the Raiders, they never gave him a defense, not one time.
No. And they kept changing coaches on him like they changed their draws.
Yeah.
My God. I don't even change my draws like that. I just turn them inside out. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. I wouldn't recommend it. Things stick to you differently. Anyway. Oh, man. The players are the ones that execute, says Adam. And he also judged Facebook Kings note, I'm going to get you next season, B. This season was my first in that league. Hey, as I tell them every year, come on with it. I always tell y'all at the beginning of the new season, don't take this ass whooping personal.
I love it.
Because it's coming. Yes, I'm glad you're so ready for it. I'm glad you got about 4 or 5 months to just sit there and stew and brew on how I'm going to sit there and just make y'all lives live in hell for 17 weeks next year. So that is great. Isn't Jacobs the league's leading rusher? The answer to that question is hit the wrong tab. Rushing, the leading rusher with, come on, Lord have mercy, internet, with 1,608 yards is one Joshua Jacobs. That is correct. Nick Chubb is 150 yards behind him. So, yeah, Josh Jacobs is in pretty good position to win the title this year. So that's good. It's good to see the top 4 names not be a quarterback. The top 5 names not be a quarterback. Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Saquon, and Miles Sanders are all top 5 in rushing. Then there's Justin Fields.
Robert Jenkins says, change your draws.
Look, man, I'm just saying the coloration on the other side. No, anyway, just saying, when it's, actually it's better to go Commando. But anyway, so Panthers definitely was, disappointing, but I'm over it already. Now, I will tell you a game that I picked that I did not expect to end that way. But I told you on the last week's show that these Steelers were going to play for Franco for the rest of this year. And they were not going to let the Ravens win that game. And for the first 3.5 quarters, I looked like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. and Rand, I'm going to tell you, I saw Kenny effing Pickett escape tackling, still having the presence of mind to look down the field. I don't know if it was the throw that was better or the damn catch by Najee.
That throw was on the freaking money. The only place that it could have been.
And Najee just caught it in stride. Like, that's what he does all the time. That's why I'm saying I don't know if it was the catch or the throw because he doesn't normally catch catches like that. That looked like Mike Evans the other day.
Yep, Kenny Pickett is getting it. Slowly and surely, he is getting it. I hope he can go to the playoffs and get some playoff experience. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to do anything at all in the playoffs, but as long as we get there and get him some experience, that's good for next year.
Anthony says, no, first Adam says, I'm sorry. No, Anthony. I know every award, but that Rookie of the Year is a toss-up and Coach of the Year. Yeah, Rookie of the Year. I don't know. That's going to be a good one. Adam says the Raiders line is okay. It's that crap D. Anthony says, I did say Pittsburgh might be above 500 team if they win next week. That is true. And Jermaine says it was the throw. The throw made the catch easier. True. And the throw wouldn't have happened without this dude's legs getting him out of a certain tackle for loss that would have more than likely ended that game.
Robbie Jenkins also agrees to throw across his body on a dime was much harder than the catch.
Yeah. It's just that they both were so good. But you're right. For that catch to even happen, what he had to do to throw it does give a little bit nod to the throw. I give you that. So
yeah.
Just watching it in real time, it was almost like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And first thing I thought when I saw it was somebody needs to go check on Rand. He might be
damn right. I woke up all my neighbors.
I kept thinking, do I need to call him because I need to make sure he didn't pass out,
Man, I'm telling you, you said you had no doubt that the Steelers were going to take that game. I had no doubt either. I think one of my comments that I put up there was no way on God's green earth.
Exactly.
Was that going to happen? I don't care if that game went to overtime, 6 quarters. We were eventually going to win that game, man. We're not going to let the Raiders come in and take that game under any circumstance. And as far as Mike Tomlin's record in prime time, y'all better do your homework.
Bruh. If they played every game on Monday night, I think they'd be 17-0.
I'm telling you.
My God. And now this game against the Doo-Doos.
Yeah, man. This is pretty much our playoff game. We got to beat the Doo-Doos, and we got to get a little bit of help. All of the cards fell right for us this past weekend, every single one of them, to enable us to move on to this particular weekend.
That is true. The Patriots had to beat the Dolphins.
Yep,
right?
And that happened.
That happened.
And then Seattle had to beat the Jets. That happened.
Why I don't say boo Pittsburgh?
Oh, you know why he say boo Pittsburgh. You shouldn't even have to ask that question.
Oh, come on. Yeah, no, because he's a Cincy guy, right?
Yeah, he's a hooday.
Yeah, hooday. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. But they're playing your state rival, the Doo-Doos. So no love for Pittsburgh, at least for this game, Adam.
No, he don't like the Doo-Doos either.
I figured. Yeah. So it's but yeah. So the Steelers are still on the bubble. They would have to win. The Pats would have to lose. And the Dolphins, I believe, would have to lose. Is that right?
No, we need the Pats to beat the Dolphins, I believe.
No, they beat them last week.
Okay, so
they played the Bills.
Okay, the Bills are playing the Patriots, so we need the Bills to beat the Patriots, and I think that can pretty much happen because the Bills are going to be extremely fired up based on circumstances right now. Plus, they're still chasing that number 1 seed. And we need Miami to lose to the Jets. Miami, I believe, is starting their 3rd string quarterback. They won't have Tua or Bridgewater against that Jet defense. So, things are looking pretty good.
Yeah.
NFL says there's a 15% chance this happens. I think it's a little higher. We're going to see.
I do too. I agree. I think the way it's playing out, the Bills are going to destroy the Patriots.
Yes.
They're gonna play for Damar.
For Damar. They'll be playing for Damar for the rest of the season.
You can't overcome that. That's like having a 12th guy on the field without him suiting up.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Nah, that ain't gonna happen. And then the Dolphins play the Jets. The Jets, I see crushing the Dolphins in this one. And that should pave the way for you as long as you handle business and beat the Browns. Or as I just saw Adam's comment, I have to go with Schittsburg over the Clowns. It's good when both of them got names of affection.
Speaking of names of affection, I saw Deshaun Watson comment talking about Mr. Massagy today.
Wax on.
Mr. Massagy.
Oh man, I wonder how many illegal use of hands penalties he'll get. But anyway,
he already got 60 of them.
Oh god, that was just right out there in front of me. I'm sorry. And Tim says, speaking of cards falling right, it seems to be the case for Green Bay. You ain't lying. If they end up back, well, they could back themselves into the playoffs, but I don't think so, Tim, because I think that Seattle would have to lose to the Rams, which means Baker would really have to put on a show. And, I ain't betting on Baker for anything.
Hell no.
I'm betting on Baker to come get my trash on Tuesday. Somehow he would just fumble the keys and can't put down the storm drain and can't find them. So anyway, I love that Cleveland has that guy.
Me too. There's jokes for the rest of this.
Oh, bro,
how long his contract is.
I mean, for real. My God.
The best thing about it is he's guaranteed to be there, baby.
Whether you want him or not.
Yep.
And you know what? In his defense, just quickly about Watson, he had a better game against the Commanders. Now I know it was against the Commanders, but he did have a better game, so he is getting a little bit better. He only threw 18 times, hit 9 of them. That's 50%. 169 yards. That's low, but he threw 3 touchdowns, so his touch is starting to come back at least. He's not. But when you have Nick Chubb on your team, that should be the focus of your team is a run game, and let the quarterback make throws that move the chains, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. He also ran for 31 yards, and a lot of times those runs were to advance the chains and stuff like that. That's all you need him to do this year till he has a full off season to really get into that playbook, run with the first team and stuff like that. So this year isn't really the case study or the sample size that you need for Deshaun Watson. It's really going to be what he does next year. So.
Yeah, let's just hope he stays out of massage parlors during the offseason and gets in a playbook. But
I mean, or he just needs, his team to put their hands on him before he leaves the showers, and then he don't, he already got his happy ending, I guess. So anyway, at this point for $250 million, $230 million guaranteed, I would send somebody over to his house to make sure that the happy ending stayed there. I'm just saying.
And while we're on Washington, shame on you, Commanders, for losing that game. Shame on
you, Ron Rivera, for starting him over Taylor Heineke when I told you they were the same dude.
If we got any Washington fans in here right now, please speak up, because that was horrendous.
Anthony, why did y'all bench Taylor Heineke? I get it. He's been struggling of late. But when Wentz went down, dude was balling. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, okay, you keep trying to go with the hot hand and this and that and the other, or maybe you saw something in practice that made you think Carson Wentz was somebody different than the train wreck we see on Sundays. But for the most part, their stats were pretty even. But I'm going to be honest with you. With the game on the line, I trust Taylor Heineke more than I trust Carson Wentz.
I think it shows 100%. Carson is done, man. He is done. He's like Matt Ryan done.
Yep, that's true. I just don't see it. I don't see him being on that team next year. If he's on that team next year, he got pictures of somebody. He knows something. While we're waiting on Anthony to respond to that, any other games that stood out for you this week, Rand? We had the Cowboys at the Titans, 27-13. Figured Dallas was going to run over that. It took them a while to catch some steam, but they finally pulled away and scored I think it was 14 straight points or something like that, but it was real tight for a good part of that game.
Yeah, there were a lot of games that I saw, man. I couldn't believe what the Packers secondary did to the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, one catch for 15 yards, just complete shutdown. I was also glad to see the return of the real Baker Mayfield. We both sat on this show last week after he got all of his accolades and flowers and told everybody that was listening that this coming week would be back to Baker
I don't know. He
Mayfield.
balled out. I mean, he went 11 for 19 for 132 yards.
Yeah, that's him. He balled out. Yeah, you're right.
Because he got over 100 yards. So I got to give him some credit there. Not really. I'm being, if you didn't catch the sarcasm and the facetiousness, it was there. Yeah. You know, I will quote the great Denny Green. They are who we thought they were.
Yep.
Well, we took it downfield. You want to crown them? Crown their ass.
Baker Mayfield will come out and he will have a good game. He will get everybody interested and everybody jumping up about their expectations and what he can do. And then the very next week, he's going to return to Baker Mayfield. We've seen it. We've seen it.
You always expect him to come home. He will come back to who he always was.
Always.
You know, when somebody plays out of themselves, just realize that's all they're doing. But they're going to come home. He'll be back to who he normally is more times than not. And the funny thing is, you don't have to wait that long either, Rand.
No, you will wait 1 week.
On a 4-game stretch where he's just balling out of his mind, and then you got to go, okay, is this the game? Is this the game? No, it'll be the next game.
It'll be the next game. We said that last week. We both sat here and said the same things last week.
Yeah, I can predict Baker Mayfield better than they can predict the weather. I'm telling you. You know, you got a better chance of getting the groundhog mess right than Baker Mayfield balling out. Tim says Commanders are where quarterbacks go to retire or be retired.
Damn.
Facts. Oh Lord. Adam says, Rand, quit beating up your guy Baker.
That is not my guy. You quit saying that, Osman. You quit saying that. I'm going to come to Fayetteville and find you, bro.
Then he said to fight words. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we knew who he was. And I mean, the Chargers had a really good game. Herbert, 21-28, 212, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So good game for him. They even got Chase Daniel in the game a little bit too. Eckler ran again over 100 yards, had 122 yards on 10 carries, 12.2 per. So really, really good ball control by the Chargers, albeit they were playing the Rams. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Any games coming up this week that you'll be taking a look at?
Well, you better know it. You better know it.
Other than the doo-doos and the Steelers.
Listen, don't disturb me at all between the hours of 1 o'clock and 4:30 this coming Sunday. Don't disturb me. My eyes will be on my Steelers versus the Browns. I will also have the second TV tuned into the Patriots and the Bills.
Of course.
Also Miami against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
We need Miami to lose. We need the Patriots to lose. We need to win. It is that simple to get us in the playoffs.
Who starts that game with the Jets?
For the Jets, I think it's Mike White that's going to start.
It better be.
Yeah, It needs to be.
You got the Chiefs and the Raiders at 4:30. Kansas City just needs to keep on winning. So that should be a good game for them. You got the Titans at the Jaguars. The Jags are on the upswing, and the Titans are kind of descending. Now, they didn't have the services of the King last week, and he had full practices, so he should be back for this game against the Jags, and that is a Saturday night game. And actually, the Chiefs Raiders is a Saturday 4:30 game. So I'm sorry, we got some Saturday and Sunday games.
Yeah, both of those for prime time, fellas. Both of those.
Yeah, both prime time. The Jags and the Titans. I'm pulling. I think the Jags are going to do it. Etienne seems a lot more comfortable running the ball. Trevor Lawrence. It seems like the
the switch has finally flipped, and everything that people thought that this guy was going to be, he's starting to come into it.
Yeah, man.
I think the momentum is with the Jags in this game.
He looked good against that Jet defense. He really did.
Yeah.
And in bad weather.
Exactly. You got the Ravens and the Bengals. Hey, Bianca. You got the Ravens and the Bengals. I honestly think that the Bengals are the hot team there, and they're going to obliterate the Ravens. Somehow it's normally a closer game. I don't feel that in this one. I feel like if the Bengals get a early lead on them, they may start to sit some guys. Who they? Says Adam. But I don't see the Ravens having enough. They're traditionally a team that just towards the end of the year they just tail off. Like they just don't get it done at the end. They just flame out on you.
Yeah, they're going to need to score at least 20 to beat the Bengals, and I don't see it happening.
I don't either. That's the problem. It comes down to points, and because you can't trade field goals for touchdowns with the Bengals. Joe Burrow's throwing touchdowns to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and you sitting there letting your long leg man kick you 3 points. Justin Tucker, that's not going to keep you in the game.
Nah, brother.
Yeah, so I just don't know where your offense is right now. Mark Andrews and Tyler Huntley are not on the same page as he is with Lamar Jackson. So you can't even get him loose like that. You got the Vikings and the Bears. The Vikings, I think from a mentality standpoint, the Vikings need to go in and obliterate the Bears and Justin Jefferson needs to show that he's that dude after getting shut down like he did.
Agreed.
You got the Patriots and the Bills. As long as this isn't a game where Mac Jones only throws for 3 times, he keeps putting the ball in harm's way, the Bills going to come away with it. And again, the Bills will be playing with the invisible 12th man, Damar, out there, so they shouldn't really punish them. Falcons and Bucks. At this point, the Bucks have wrapped up the NFC South. There's no reason to play anybody in this game. The Falcons could actually get a win in this game just for the simple fact if they sit, and they need to sit all day old ass people down if they have any chance of doing anything in the playoffs, because more than likely their first week in the playoffs is going to be against Dallas.
Yep. So
they really need to do that, because if they can get through next week without any major injuries, I think they got a chance in Jerry World, because that ain't necessarily home field advantage for the Cowboys.
They got a good chance. They got a very good chance.
Yeah, so if they get through next week without any injuries and then have to go play Dallas at Jerry World, I'm ready for that pick that you're gonna put up. I'm ready. And let's see, we also have the Cardinals and the 49ers. Oh man, poor Cardinals. 49ers, man, they just keep on rolling. Whether it's Jimmy G, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, hell, Adam Osman. It don't matter who the quarterback is. Even though, Adam, I think you can play for the 49ers right now, and Kyle Shanahan will figure out how to make you really good, and they will continue to win. Of course, the Cowboys are playing the Commanders. As God, I hope that's not a prime time. That's not a prime time game. I don't have to pick that. Every time you put Cowboys in the prime time, I hate having to say Dallas.
Yeah, I can't stand it either.
Yeah, 5-star recruit, baby, says Adam. He's a 5-star recruit. He gonna go ball out for the Niners. I know that's right. I can do it too, as long as I put on my little Oculus and have my little hand grips right here.
Right.
Which, if you haven't played that NFL Pro on the Oculus, it is pretty good. Anyway, the Rams play the Hawks. I think the Hawks are gonna beat the crap out of them. Tim Bayless, America's team. Lord have mercy.
Oh God.
Jesus.
Oh God. End the show. End the show.
I know. I think we're having technical difficulties. Look. All I'm gonna say is this: if the Commanders beat y'all,
y'all shouldn't say nothing else for the rest of the year. Oh man, and Adam says we aren't that far off in age. B, LOL. Yeah, that's hey. I feel you. He said I need that Oculus too. It's good. The graphics are so crazy. You really feel like you're on that football field, man.
I bought one for my daughter. I think I'm using it more than she is.
Oh, really? Have you gotten that NFL Pro game that they have?
I've not tried the NFL Pro one yet.
Oh my gosh! So the NFL Pro game actually makes you the quarterback. You pick up the plays off of your guard there, and then you run the plays. And literally, you have to go through the whole throwing motion, getting it to the right. You'll see your hot reads, your secondary reads, and all that stuff. The defensive line is coming at you. You got to drop back and throw it. You simulate all the defensive plays, and then you just basically play the offensive plays.
Yeah, that's dope, man.
Oh, it's very dope. I use that game, and then they also have a Creed boxing game, where you can pick any of the Creed characters. You can even go back to pick Mr. T's character, Adonis Sr., Adonis Jr., Rocky, a couple of the other guys, and you fight against these other guys. I'm gonna tell you what, if you want some cardio, play Creed. Because you got to swing them arms to knock them dudes out. By the time you take that thing off, if you don't have sweat around your eyes, then you ain't playing it like I be playing it. I'm just telling you. So just some recommends with the Oculus. So nice little game. And wrapping up next week, we've got the Giants and the Eagles. Yes, the Eagles need this more than the Giants, and the Giants are going to be sitting their players. So the Eagles should win that game on Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Then you have the Chargers and the Broncos. I think the Chargers are pretty much in, right?
Chargers are in, yes.
Chargers are in, so nothing's really going to affect them, but it'd be nice to win on a high note, but not a whole lot of implications in that game as well. And then you've got the last game, the Lions and the Packers. I would just love to see the Lions bury the Packers, and I think they have a good opportunity to do that. That is a Sunday 8 p.m. game, so that should be very interesting to see if Aaron Rodgers can pull one more trick out of his hat.
Yeah. Once again, though, I'm going to give both of us props at the beginning of the year when we were doing our preseason predictions. You said the New York Jets would come up and be in the running. They were in the running for a lot of the season. I know they're not going to make the playoffs, but they were there for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And I picked the Detroit Lions, who are there at the very last week of the season. So two teams that did not make the playoffs last year and were losers last year, we both correctly predicted to make a little bit of business coming this year.
That's correct. Adam, to answer your question, is it in Detroit? No, sir. It is actually in Green Bay. But we'll see how that goes. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers played one of his better games, but the problem is, again, the consistency of these guys. Can he muster up that same kind of effort a second game in a row?
Right. Yep.
I don't know. I don't think so. Now, here's the problem. If the Packers somehow get into the playoffs, your bigger problem is going to be this: the offseason.
Yeah.
What do you do with Aaron Rodgers? Who do you draft? Does he hold you hostage all year or all offseason, and you go through this whole thing again? I think if you don't make it to the playoffs, you have an easier case to say, hey, guys, we just need to go ahead and rebuild.
Yeah.
Robbie
Jenkins says Seattle has the tiebreaker over Detroit, and Detroit currently has the tiebreaker over the Packers.
Correct. Right. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. So they're still in there. I don't think they're gonna necessarily pull it off. I think Detroit is gonna play hard for Dan Campbell. Jared Goff's been looking really, really good. Look. I had Jared on my other team's fantasy, and every time I kept looking at my phone, I kept getting an alert that he threw another touchdown. So I know it was against the Bears. But Jared Goff, 21 of 29, 255, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah, man. And Quivius St. Brown is that dude at receiver too.
Definitely Brown was getting it. Brown was definitely getting it. So Jamal Williams did a lot of heavy carrying in that game, 22 carries, 144 yards, on 6.5 a carry. I mean, which is decent, but my God, he was just pounding them away in the submission. So Detroit's really, really playing hard for Dan Campbell. If they win Sunday, they will actually end the season at 9-8. What a hell of a turnaround for them. Adam says, got to run, gentlemen. Love you guys. Y'all crushing. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming through.
Thanks, man.
We about to get up out of here too. Rand, any final picks or any prognostications that you have for this week?
Go Steelers, go Tomlin, baby.
Hey, it's going to be another winning season for Tomlin, I feel. And that will just keep adding to the lore that Pittsburgh folks have. So that'll be a great thing to see. Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, we appreciate y'all tuning in for another week of Head to Head Sports. We will do this again next week, and we will see y'all then. Y'all take care. Thanks, Ryan. See you.
Yep. See you, man.
All right.